So today I'm thinking about the scholars that try to warn us about kind of what would happen to human culture as it shifted from primarily being a print-based culture to being one that's on electronic media. And that includes television, radio, but primarily the internet, the interactive, where it went. You know. And famously, Marshall McLuhan with the medium as a message and all that, but more specifically, Neil Postman was his book, Amusing Ourselves to Death. Later, he wrote a book, Technopoly. And he was a professor talking about the shift from print-based culture. Print-based culture is basically kind of logical. It's the Renaissance, the Age of Reason. People get into this mode of scientific discovery and human expression based on sort of making a claim, making it sort of a, hey, I'm saying this, I'm stating this, or this is my theory, and I have these points that kind of back up the thing I'm stating, and then I'm going to kind of restate my thing, saying that, hey, I've shown you these 3 points about this thing. That's basically the kind of the essay that you learn to write in high school, right? The argument, the form of the argument. You make a claim, you get some subpoints, and a warrant. And then that kind of thinking requires us to develop our thoughts, requires us to make our claim and then back it up. And but then as you shift to electronic media, and somebody wants to make a point about a particular culture, or a country or something, and they're not just going to say, well, this group, the Hutus, are acting this way because point 1, point 2, point 3. They'll maybe just show you some imagery of the Hutus and make them look scary if that's their point, and then maybe play you an Islamic chant in music in the background, and then show you a bloody knife or something like that. That's really extreme. That's over the top. But that's how it's done. It's emotional manipulation in the electronic media, at least at this stage in the game, with human culture kind of, still relatively new with this. And that's what's happening, is this sort of emotional manipulation that can happen. And now, with the internet, it's gone into this world of digital echo chambers. So the analog and the system is kind of steering you to a media group that supports your worldview, which is really opposed to another worldview. It's kind of like a bipolar myopia that's being set up, that's been set up. And partisan, it's very partisan in America. It can shift to different polarities, but and in this framework, it's the whole thing is misinformation. Society can no longer communicate to itself about basic things like a virus that's going around. They can't ever get to a baseline of accepted information about it. One side has hyperbolic about the virus and what it can do, and just crazy, being controlled by not very credible people like Dr. Fauci and the CDC and stuff like that. Talking points for rich people, right? The pharmaceutical industry. And then the other side is whacked out on, worried about immigrants and just whatever. But the point is, no one is just saying, oh, look, here's the baseline of accepted information about this virus. I can accept as a Republican, or I can accept as a Democrat. It doesn't matter, We're not able to do that. And instead, we are completely emotionally manipulated. The whole society is emotionally triggered about things and not logical about anything. They can't really make an argument for things. And they say, actually, that this form of dialectic, the argument itself, is maybe a part of white supremacy. or it's a part of a forgotten part of our culture that we're trying to move away from now. And what's important now is just to embrace the correct narrative of your tribe, the kind of tribe that you're in. You're in the anti-Trump tribe. And so there's certain rules and parameters that go with that. It's based on personalities, not information. It's if Rachel Maddow says an information packet, the way that information packet is received is based on the fact that Rachel Maddow is saying it, right? Think if I put the same information, I have Tucker Carlson say it, how that's going to be received, or if I have Rachel Maddow say it, how that's going to be received. And that's kind of the quality of our information right now. It's this personality politics, this identity groupings, and none of them are very well informed. And so it's basically what Neil Postman was talking about. Neil Postman was warning us about, but it's worse because we've let the digital platforms that we're on. So not only is it the nature of the medium itself, that it's electronic media that's more emotional based than logic based, but it's also the fact that who owns the platforms that we're on and how intertwined they are with elements of the steady state and our old mainstream media platforms, and how these have coalesced into a horrible situation for Americans who just want to be informed and want to be able to talk to each other across platforms in unfiltered ways. This is now kind of being shut down. The ability to just talk, to comment, to give feedback. That was such the neat thing about the internet, right? That was maybe a little different than just going out and buying a magazine with the articles in there. And you have to write a letter to them, and then maybe they'll post it or not later, print it, hardly anyone's going to see it. However, when Time magazine or whatever went online and they had an open comment section, people could give feedback directly right there to the article. They could say, this article is BS. The whole premise of the article was BS. Or they could say, this is a great article. I'm so glad you brought this up. So that kind of direct kind of feedback and talk is the kind of thing that has already been filtered away. They use the trope of the Bernie bro, abusive Bernie bros asking questions. And somebody went back and actually analyzed the bullying language during that period, and it was all from Clinton Democrats attacking Bernie voters mostly. And then there was, of course, some really high profile examples of Bernie people saying bad things. But the numbers, the overall vibe on the block was Clinton people saying, all you Bernie people have to believe that the only reason Hillary lost is because of Putin, right? Stuff like that. And then if you don't believe that, well, you're a crazy Fox News, so they attack your source, ad hominem attack on your source based on personality cult kind of thing and not logic, once again, right? So you could say logically to them, do you really think that Vladimir Putin, the KGB, Russia, they are a scary, second world power now. Okay. Nuclear, they were our big, Cold War, enemy for decades. All that's true. But at this stage in the game, there's other players out there. Hey, who knew? There's financial institutions that are already in the cabinet, that are in every cabinet. There's one called Goldman Sachs that's in Republican cabinets and that's in Democratic cabinets, but somehow they don't matter. We're not going to talk about them. We're not going to look at them. Lloyd Blankfein, whatever. That doesn't matter. Timothy Geithner, Larry Summers, they're nothing. Don't look at them. Focus on Putin, right? So that's just this craziness, really. This inability to look at Saudi Arabia as an influential player, Israel as an influential player. That all is, for 3 years, no scrutiny. on anything, any other players in the real political world. It was all Russia, and that's crazy. And that's just one example of what I was gonna talk about.